My name's Daniel Myers, and I swear to God what happened to me in Ashford, North Carolina wasn't just some ghost story. I used to work construction for a living. Hard, honest work. The kind that leaves your hands rough and your back permanently aching. 2 years ago, I was hired to renovate an old house out by Sparrow Creek, a forgotten stretch of road that even locals avoided after dark. The house belonged to a woman named Martha Lewis, a widow in her late 60s. She had inherited it from her husband's family. She wanted the place fixed up enough to sell. At least, that's what she told me. But the first time I stepped inside, I knew something was off. The smell hit me first. Not mold, not rot, but something burnt, like candle wax mixed with sulfur. The windows were sealed shut. Every mirror in the house was covered with white sheets. Martha noticed me staring. "It's better that way," she said. "They don't like reflections." I laughed nervously. "Who's they?" She didn't answer. She just went upstairs and left me alone. The first few days went fine. I replaced floorboards, fixed some wiring, painted the hallway. But at night, I started hearing things. Low whispers, like a woman praying, coming from the basement. When I checked, nothing. Just a faint humming, like an old generator running somewhere deep beneath the floor. Then came the knocking. Always 3 times, always between 3 and 3:10 a.m. I told myself it was old pipes, wood settling, whatever, until one night I heard the knocking and then a voice. "You shouldn't have touched the wall." I froze. The wall. That afternoon I had been sanding a section near the staircase when I found a hollow spot. Behind it was a wooden panel nailed shut with iron nails. I thought it was just rotten plaster. I had pried one of the nails out. The next morning Martha confronted me before I could even say good morning. "You opened it, didn't you?" She looked terrified, shaking, pale. "You need to leave it sealed." My husband, he tried to dig there once. It nearly killed him. That's when I saw it. The burn mark. A dark hand-shaped print, black as coal, right on her forearm. She caught me staring and covered it quickly. That night, the whispers came again, but louder this time. They weren't prayers anymore. They were pleas. "Let me out. It burns." He lied. I packed my tools and told Martha I was done. No job was worth this. But before I could leave, she grabbed my wrist. "Please, Daniel. Just one more night. The priest is coming. He can help." The next evening, Father Coleman arrived. A man in his 50s, clean-cut, calm and confident. He said little, but his eyes, they looked tired, like he'd seen things he didn't want to remember. He asked me to show him the spot where I'd found the hollow wall when he pressed his hand against it. He frowned. "This isn't rot," he said quietly. "This is a seal." Then he opened his bag and took out a small bottle of holy water and a cross. He began to pray, Latin phrases that rolled off his tongue like muscle memory. The air grew heavy. The lights flickered. And then came a sound from behind the wall. A long, shrill scream. Father Coleman didn't flinch. He kept praying, louder this time, until something hit the wall from the other side, hard enough to crack the plaster. Then silence. He looked at me and Martha. "It's not gone," he said, "but it's bound." For now, the priest left before dawn. Martha paid him in cash and didn't say a word. But the next morning, I found the kitchen door wide open and Father Coleman's car still parked out front. When I went to look for him, there was no sign of the man, just muddy footprints leading back to the basement. And at the bottom of the stairs, the wooden panel was gone. By morning, the air inside the house had changed. It was colder, not the kind of cold that seeps from bad insulation. This was something else. Like the air itself was heavy with breath that wasn't mine. Martha didn't come downstairs for breakfast. When I finally checked on her, she was sitting on her bed staring at the window, whispering something over and over. I couldn't make out the words until I stepped closer. He shouldn't have spoken her name. "Whose name?" I asked. She turned to me, eyes wide, glassy. "Abigail." The sound of it made the back of my neck tighten. I didn't know who Abigail was. But the second she said it, the house creaked, like the walls themselves remembered. That night, I heard a new sound. Footsteps. They moved slowly across the upstairs hall. Heel, toe, drag, heel, toe, drag. I called out, "Martha?" No answer. Then a whisper came right from behind me. "He's gone." I spun around. No one. but the floor beneath my feet felt warm. The next morning, a black car pulled up in front of the house. An older man stepped out, short, gray beard, wearing a long coat and a yarmulke. "Mrs. Lewis?" he called. "Rabbi Solomon." I came as requested. Martha hurried down the stairs like a child meeting a parent. She shook his hand and whispered, "It's back, Rabbi." The priest couldn't stop it. He gave her a look of pity, the kind you give someone who's already halfway gone. Then his eyes met mine. "You're the one who opened the wall." I nodded. He sighed. "Then it's not just her problem anymore." We went down to the basement. The wooden panel was gone, just as I'd seen. Behind it, a hole, a small chamber maybe 4 feet deep, lined with old stone. Inside, black soot covered the walls, and at the center, a scorched iron cross half melted into the floor. The rabbi lit a small candle and began murmuring Hebrew prayers. Under his breath, he placed a thin parchment, scroll on the ground, and sprinkled salt around the chamber. "This house was sealed," he said. "Whoever did this wanted to trap something, not keep it out." He asked for quiet and started chanting louder. The words had rhythm, almost like waves crashing. Then came the first bang. Something hit the wall again. Once, twice, 3 times. The rabbi didn't stop, but the candle flame turned black. A scream erupted. From the chamber, a woman's voice, raw, burning, endless. I dropped to my knees, covering my ears. The salt line blew apart like a gust of wind had torn through it, and then the rabbi fell silent. He was staring into the chamber, pale as chalk. "It's not a ghost," he whispered. "It's a dibbuk. It's bound to the bloodline." I didn't understand. He turned to me. "It's you, Daniel. It wants you." And before I could speak, something moved in the hole. A charred hand reaching up, fingers clawing the edge. The rabbi grabbed a vial from his pocket and splashed oil across the chamber, chanting faster, shouting Hebrew verses I couldn't follow. The floor trembled, the iron cross cracked, and a single word echoed through the basement. In a voice that wasn't human, "Daniel!" The rabbi pushed me toward the stairs. "Go! Go now!" I ran. Behind me the lights burst one by one, each pop louder than the last. When I reached the top, Martha was waiting. "He can't stop it," she said, her voice hollow. "Only one can." When I turned back, the rabbi was gone. Only his coat remained, lying neatly at the top of the stairs, smoldering. That night, I left the house and drove until sunrise, but when I stopped for gas miles away, the radio flickered to life, a static hiss, then a whisper. "You can't run from faith." I didn't go back for 3 days. I slept in my truck, parked by the edge of Highway 9, eating gas station food, staring at the tree line whenever night came. But sleep didn't help. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, the woman in the smoke, her lips moving silently, her eyes glowing with something far too alive to be dead. And that voice, "You called me." I hadn't told anyone where I'd been, what I'd seen, but someone found me anyway. A man knocked on my truck window just as the sun came up. He was tall, in his 40s maybe, with a short beard and calm eyes. He wore a simple gray coat. Nothing about him looked like a preacher or an exorcist, but there was something in the way he looked at me, like he already knew. "You're Daniel," he said softly. "The one from Sparrow Creek." I froze. "Who told you?" He didn't answer right away. He just said, "My name is Imam Yusuf. Mrs. Lewis sent for me. She said the others failed." I wanted to tell him to turn around, to leave that cursed house behind, but the way he spoke, quiet, certain, it pulled me in. So I drove him back. The moment we turned onto Sparrow Creek Road, the radio went dead. Even the engine seemed to hum lower, like the car itself was afraid. When we arrived, Martha was waiting on the porch. She looked worse than before, eyes sunken, skin gray. She smiled faintly when she saw him. "You're our last hope," she whispered. Inside, the house felt wrong. The air was damp and metallic, like blood and rain. The Imam set down his small leather bag and said something under his breath. "You can feel it, can't you?" he asked me. "Yeah," I said. "Like it's breathing." He nodded. "That's because it's feeding." He asked to see the basement. When we got there, the smell nearly knocked me over. Sulfur, ash, Something burnt years ago but never gone. The scorch marks on the stone were darker now, pulsing faintly like veins. The Imam knelt beside the melted cross and began to trace the pattern around it with his finger. This was done with good intention, he murmured, but wrong words. He reached into his bag, pulling out a small Quran, a string of prayer beads, and a bowl of clear water. He looked at me and said, "Faith is like light, Daniel. The flame doesn't care what language you speak, only the truth in your heart." He began to recite a deep, rhythmic Arabic that rolled through the basement like thunder. Each verse seemed to echo inside me, vibrating against my ribs. Then it began. The walls moaned, the house breathed, and from the hole in the floor, black smoke rose like ink in water. In the smoke, a shape formed, the outline of a woman. Her voice was fire. "You don't belong here." The Imam didn't stop. His voice grew louder, steadier. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. I didn't understand the words, but I felt them, like they were cutting through the air. Through her, the smoke shrieked and twisted, forming faces, hands, eyes, all burning and disappearing at once. Then the Imam turned to me. "Daniel, say her name." "What?" "Say it. You must acknowledge what was done to her." My throat felt tight. The house shook. "Abigail," I shouted. The instant her name left my mouth, the smoke froze midair, then split apart like shattered glass. A woman's face flickered in front of me, burned, but almost peaceful. She looked at the Imam. "Why help him?" He closed his eyes and said, "Because mercy doesn't belong to one faith." And the light exploded. A roar filled the room, deafening and bright, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I couldn't hear her anymore, only silence. When I opened my eyes, the smoke was gone. The burn marks had faded. The air smelled clean. Rain, not ash. Imam Yusuf stood, exhausted but calm. He turned to Martha, who was weeping quietly by the stairs. "It's finished," he said, "but you must leave this place. Nothing good will ever grow here again." Outside, the sun was rising. I watched it break over Sparrow Creek, coloring the trees gold. The Imam placed his hand on my shoulder. "You were chosen to witness," he said, "not cursed, just called." Then he walked away, disappearing into the fog, his figure shrinking until the road swallowed him. I sold my truck a week later and left Ashford for good. But sometimes, when the rain hits the roof just right, I swear I hear that whisper again. Not angry, not vengeful, just watching. Faith saved you once, Daniel. Don't forget. It had been 5 years since I left Ashford. 5 years since I saw Imam Yusuf walk into the fog and save me from the woman in the flame. I moved to Charlotte, tried to rebuild a normal life, but some nights in the quiet hours before dawn, I could still hear her voice, a whisper, faint, like the wind brushing through a cracked window. "Daniel?" I told myself it was guilt, trauma, anything but the truth. Then the call came. Martha. Lewis, her voice was trembling. "Daniel, it's back." I felt it immediately. That same cold, heavy breath of the house. The same sulfur scent I could almost smell through the phone. She didn't explain much. She just said the house had been touched again, and I had to come. I didn't hesitate. I left everything behind and drove north, retracing the same winding roads to Sparrow Creek. But when I arrived, nothing, no house, no ruins. The land was overgrown with trees and weeds. It looked like the house had never existed. I parked and got out, heart racing. The creek ran quietly, water glinting in the morning sun. I stepped closer to the ground where the house had been, then I felt it, the pull. I knelt and ran my hand through the dirt. There, barely visible, was the faint outline of a charred cross, like a scar in the earth. And beneath it, footprints, not mine. They led toward the creek. Followed. Idasaka chasson. The air changed as I approached the water. It was colder. The mist hovered just above the surface, thick and gray. And there she was, Abigail, or what she had become. She rose from the creek, skin charred, hair floating like smoke, eyes blazing. She stared at me. "You left me," she whispered. I stammered. "I didn't. You promised mercy," she hissed. "Where is your faith now?" Nashiko. I remembered the Imam, his voice, his words, the feeling of certainty when he recited verses I didn't understand. I closed my eyes. I whispered the prayers he taught me. The ones he said worked across faiths. Slowly, the flames that surrounded her flickered. Her gaze wavered. The scream was silent now. She reached out to me. "Daniel, free me." I felt my hands trembling. Then I realized it was not me who could save her. It had always been the faith, the intention behind mercy that mattered. I repeated the words louder. "In the name of all that is merciful, in the name of truth and compassion, I release you." The ground shuddered. The creek boiled with steam. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, she was gone. Mosh, for the first time in years, the air smelled like rain, not ash. The scar in the ground had faded. Even the creek seemed calmer, quiet, harmless. I sat down on a fallen log. The sun warmed my face. And for the first time since that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I left Sparrow Creek the next day. I didn't look back. But sometimes, when I walk past a church or a creek or see someone lighting a candle, I whisper a quiet prayer. May mercy always find them, no matter the darkness. Because some things are not defeated by strength, they are defeated by faith.